Good evening, everybody. It is Halo. Today is the 6th of July, 2025. And in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down open closed divergence. So, this is a presentation done with a PDF, as I promised all of you guys that I was going to do. The reason why I made this into a PDF is for you guys to reference not only in video format but also in written format of the building blocks of open closed divergence, how to implement it, what is it exactly, and how you can use it. Okay, so hope you guys enjoy. So first slide, what is open closed divergence, right? Open closed divergence is a type of cracking correlation that derives from the closure of the first candle and the opening of the third candle. The cracking correlation works best when two things are present. Those two things are the following: sequential SMT, and candle 2 is a PSP. Now, these are both extremely important because, like everything else in trading, if there's not parameters within what you see and rules in what you guys trade, you're not going to succeed in this, right? You're going to get a lot of false positives, a lot of stuff that really isn't 100% applicable. But this, with these parameters, will benefit you a lot. So when presented, the availability to execute high probability trades increases substantially. Now, again, when I say when presented, I don't mean just the open close divergence. I mean the open close divergence with the sequential SMT and the candle 2 as a PSP. The reason why those go hand in hand is because it is basically the way that they taught how to trade PSPs, and I'm going to go over that later. This cracking correlation can be utilized as a foundation for strategy/models and works parallel with ICT/QT teachings. Yes, this strategy is basically a cookie cutter version of what they taught in his QT mentorship and what ICT mentioned in a lot of his order block videos, in a lot of his rejection block videos. This is basically what it is, right? Now, of course, ICT never called it this directly, nor did he use PSPs at all. But in reference to structure and already formed candles, this is pretty much as close as you can get to those teachings without directly diving deep into what ICT is taught. Right? So, implementation. There is countless ways to implement open-close divergences, from using them to identify high probability PSPs for entry/narrative, all the way to using them on a lower time frame, 1 minute/15, to refine your already existing entry model. Incorporating open-close divergences involves using the time frame alignments given by both ICT and QT, and can also be used for fractal PSPs. Example, 1 hour PSP, 5 minute PSP. If there is a sequential SMT, this will be one of the first cracking correlations that will present. Now, the reason why I say that this is the first cracking correlation that's going to present is because usually when there's reversals, there's PSPs. PSPs are the signature for reversals/retracements. And if there's not a PSP with a sequential SMT, there's most likely not a reversal. Now, a lot of the times people get confused and they say, Halo, but there's no PSP on the time frame alignment given to us. Well, there doesn't have to be, according to QT, right? You ideally want to have it into the time frame alignment given to you, right? Meaning if there's, for example, daily cycle sequential SMT with like a 15-minute PSP to form, but a 1 hour PSP would do justice for a TPD alignment, or you can potentially find a 1 hour PRC, and I'm going to go over that later as well, right? In this example, I only gave PSPs, or in this PDF, I only put PSPs, but in reality, it's PSPs and PRCs, right? So, step 1, sequential SMT, as I've already stated. Step 2 is your PSP. Step 3 is your candle 3 opening, right? Now, a lot of guys focus on the closure of candle 2, right? The closure of the PSP. What people really forget is the fact that the candle right after that is equally as important as the candle that actually forms the PSP. I see a lot of QT traders who are just implementing these teachings, and they see, For example, they see days talk about, oh, PSPs are signs of reversals. And the second they see a PSP, they get trigger happy and execute a trade to whatever it may be, equilibrium, previous quarter low, high, whatever it may be, right? That is not a bad thing, but it's not really the way you're supposed to be trading PSPs, because right after the candle 2 closure is the candle 3 opening. And if you reference the first candle, meaning candle 1, candle 2 is your PSP, and candle 3, if you reference the first candle and you see if there's a divergence between the 3 assets, ES, YM, and NQ, if one asset class opened on the third candle lower than the first candle's closing price, that's a obvious sign of reversal. That's a cracking correlation amongst the actual open and closings of the candles, right? That is a form of a cracking correlation that works best to identifying high probability PSPs. How to spot. So here we have a picture alongside with a few checklists, and I'm gonna go over it right now. As was stated in the previous slides, spotting open-close divergences is easy. Look for a cracking correlation between candle 1's closing and candle 3's opening. And if you would like to have the highest probability open-close divergence, make sure candle 2 is a PSP. The reason why I stated that about candle 2 being a PSP is because there's open-close divergences everywhere and anywhere in price. I can find it on any correlated asset. I can find it on dollar, euro, pound, interest rate. I can find it on anything. But what makes it high probability is the fact that there's sequential SMT and the fact that there is candle 2 is a PSP, right? It's an obvious sign of reversal / retracement. There needs to be sequential SMT attached for these to work. If not, there will be a lot of false positives within your back / forward testing. The reason why I also stated a lot of false positives is because if you are fading the current trend in the market, let's say we're in a downtrend, and then we have no sequential SMT, and you're trying to pattern trade an open-close divergence, if you have, which usually occurs, one lagging asset, you are going to get a shit ton of open-close divergences, right? You're not going to know which one's going to work simply because you're pattern trading all of them left and right. That's not beneficial, right? Remember that we're trading a correlation of assets, decoupling from each other, and then recorrelating again to then deliver to its objective, whether it be buy side, sell side, an imbalance, whatever it may be. So the actual thing you're trading is that decoupling of one or two assets from the other or from the others, and then that recoupling to then deliver back, right? All these assets, NQ, ES, and YM, should all be correlated in sync, not perfectly in sync, but roughly the same. And when they're not, that's an obvious sign that the market's either going to reverse / retrace and will give you an entry model. So if you are fading, let's say order flow, and we're bearish, we're delivering bearish on NQ and on ES, and of course, I know some people don't use YM, but for those who do, YM is just accumulating. You're going to get a lot of false positives in what may seem as a, as a open close divergence, right? So I didn't put this in this PDF, but structure is extremely important within all this, right? Understanding structure, understanding draw liquidity, narrative. As I mentioned before, all of these concepts are intertwined. You're supposed to incorporate everything that you've learned from the previous one into this one, right? Time frame alignment, structure, draw liquidity, narrative, DFRs. They all help with understanding your highest probability open close divergences, right? And so here's a checklist. Here's an example of an open close divergence. You have sequential SMT, 90-minute at the lows. And then you have your candle 2 as a PSP, which is right here in this range. And then there's a time frame alignment amongst the PSP, and the open close divergence is existent. As you guys can see, candle 1 is this candle right here, right before the yellow box. Candle 2 is at PSP, and as you can see, NQ opened up slightly lower by 3 ticks under the closing price of candle 1. And as you can see, YM and ES both ended up going higher. And this was a very, very, very good reversal point, and price ended up shooting straight up. Now, going against what most of you might think is the truth, only because you have a bearish PSP doesn't mean that we're going to reverse. You can also get bearish PSPs and also end up pumping in price. That's why it's so important to have a narrative, right? 5-minute PSP, only because it's a down close candle doesn't mean we're going to go down. right? 5-minute PSP signaling a reversal with structure showing that we have a cracking correlation, right? 90-minute, you guys can see, and as well as micro and somewhere in this range. And there's a correlated time frame alignment with the open close divergence and a PSP, right? So price is going to go reverse back up higher because it already hit its higher time frame draw on liquidity. Incorporating. So this is probably where all of you guys are going to get your sauce from in this video, where most of you guys are going to be writing down most of this stuff and implementing it in your strategies. So approach number one, right? How to incorporate all of this open close divergence, and these are the three primary ways that I do it, okay? So approach number one, the first way to incorporate open close divergence is by using the methodology of PSPs that Day showed in the public to the public in his mentorship. Sequential SMT being the first step, your correlated time frame alignment PSP. So for example, in this case, we'll use the 90-minute sequential SMT, 5-minute PSP, and then entry off of the closure of candle 2, opening / the opening of the candle of 3, right? Or candle 3. The highest probability PSPs will have sequential SMT with an open close divergence, right? So meaning your PSPs that are going to have the highest probability to work will have sequential SMT attached to them, right? So if we have a 5-minute PSP, there should be 90-minute cycle sequential SMT, right? And it should be with the time frame alignment given to you. So yeah, that's how you guys should be incorporating that. Approach number two, the second way to incorporate open close divergences is by utilizing the TPD alignments. Sequential SMT, one time frame higher than the time frame alignment for the observed sequential SMT, meaning in this case, I'm going to give a 90-minute example. You have a 90-minute sequential SMT. Then you have a 15-minute TPD, right? Because the correlated time frame for the 90-minute sequential is the 5-minute, and if you go one time frame higher, it's the 15-minute. And then you have your lower time frame sequential SMT to confirm it. In terms of entry, and I put this here because this is how I do it, you can just enter off the candle 3's opening to anticipate the lower time frame sequential SMT to form within that candle 2's range. So I'm actually going to go back a little bit and show you guys something. In this image, this is a prime example. So this had 90-minute cycle sequential SMT. This yellow box that you see with this candle in here in the middle is the PSP, right? So this PSP that we have here had 90-minute cycle sequential SMT. Now, what you can do in this range is utilize this range of this PSP and look for a lower time frame, a 1 minute preferably, because the 15-minute lower time frame, the 15-minute is the 1 minute, right? The correlated lower time frame is a 1 minute. Same with the 5. The 5-minute lower time frame is a 1 minute, right? You can look at this PSP. You can look for a 1 minute PSP after having microcycle. So what you can do is you go on the 1 minute and then you look for a microcycle in this range with a 1 minute PSP, open close divergence, and then you long it, right? You play the continuation. So 90-minute cycle sequential SMT, 15-minute TPD, your open close divergence, of course, attached to it. And in this case, you can put your stops at candle 1's low or candle 2's low, whatever one you prefer, as they shouldn't be mitigated because YM is the one that's delivering lower. So that's the way you can do it. Now, the final approach, number 3, the last way to incorporate open close divergence is by utilizing fractals in terms of PSPs. I highly suggest watching the time frame alignment video for a better understanding of what I'm talking about in this, because many of you guys hear fractal PSPs and you think, oh my God, we're using like order flow or some shit. No. This is a different way of utilizing fractal. By fractal, I mean time frame alignment, right? So if you have, in this case, a 90-minute sequential SMT, you would look for a 1 hour open close divergence with a PSP, of course. And your entry can be within the 1 hour PSP's range, right? Or it would be a closure above it. Now, in terms of this, right? In terms of the fractal version of entry, candle 2, the PSP's low, should be mitigated because that's what's going to create your 90-minute cycle sequential SMT. This sounds weird, but if you look at the time frame alignment video, you have a perfect understanding of what I'm mentioning. I mentioned this a long time ago, right? If there's no weekly cycle sequential SMT, you can still have a 1 hour PSP that's high probability. How? There's two ways you can have it. One, you can have 90-minute cycle sequential SMT between candle 2 and candle 3 of the 3 candle sequence, right? Of the open close divergence. Candle 2 being rated will create your open close divergence, and a closure above the opening price of candle 2 will confirm it. And then you can also use the TPD alignment. So if you have it, for example, the 1 hour, of course, I'm using, if we don't have weekly cycle, you could use the 1 hour with 2 different time frames, or two different ways. One of them being the 90-minute sequential at the Q2, Q3, or candle 2, candle 3 low. The second one being, if there's daily cycle sequential SMT, you look for a hourly TPD, essentially, right? So that's two ways you can use it. So approach number 1, approach number 2, approach number 3 are always I incorporate open close divergence. I also do it a lot. And when I say a lot, I use approach number 3 a lot when it comes to narrative. It helps substantially understand where price is most likely to head next. And if I see that I don't have a drawn liquidity, I use approach number 3 substantially, because there usually is no PSPs forming, right? So approach number 3 works, approach number 2 works really well, and approach number 1 works, of course, like they has taught it in the public teachings, very, very well. Good luck to all of you, okay? With any and every concept, I highly suggest you to backtest and forward test open close divergence before implementing it within your strategy. Use it as a building block in your already established foundation of time and price, right? Guys, I can't explain this enough. All of you guys should be using backtest, forward test, anything you can be doing, demo trading, to go ahead and build your understanding of open close divergence, right? You don't have to use the ways I teach it. You can use it your own way, whatever way you like. Find out what works best for your strategy, because what works best for me may not work best for you. So of course, step 1, learn it. Step 2, back test it. Step 3, forward test it. And step 4, trade it, right? Trust the process, trust the learning curve. It's going to work out. All right, guys? Good luck to all of you, and I'll see you guys later. I hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.